Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. So I wanted to introduce myself first off. My name is Justin, and I am creating this channel to kind of step out of my comfort zone a little bit and maybe to enrich another person's life along the journey. The series of videos is going to be geared towards the gay men, but it encompasses everybody in the LGBT community. And so I do want to stress that I'm not here for pity. I'm not here for popularity. I'm not going to be doing videos with my shirt off, and I'm not going to talk about things that are going to try to make me a YouTube star. But I'm going to talk about real life issues and struggles that we have as a LGBTQ community, and we'll go from there. So the first video of this series is going to talk about one of the most important things that we as a individual within the community have to overcome, and that is coming out. And again, I want to also stress that I am no expert. I do have education behind me that allows me to talk about these topics freely, but also not only do I have the education, I also have the experience, both firsthand and viewed. So today's video, like I said, is going to encompass coming out and the process and journey in which it is. Coming out is not something that can happen overnight. It doesn't just happen. You don't wake up and say, "Oh, I'm coming out today." It's a long process. It's a process that takes a while, and in order for that process to start, you have to do one thing, and that's coming out to yourself. You have to come out to yourself as an individual. You have to come out and accept yourself, who you are, love yourself as who you are, and then you can make that next stage progression, and that is to coming out to the world. Once you have accepted who you are as an individual and you are ready to progress and move out to telling the world, you encounter a lot of things. And I do want to mention that I am so impressed with the fact that as the generations grow older, I'm noticing that more individuals are coming out at younger ages, and that's amazing. I actually just heard a story the other day, right before I decided to start making these videos, of where a 6-year-old came out, and some people are like, he's 6 years old, he doesn't know, and X, Y, and Z, but that's not the case. We are growing up as a society, and people are identifying with who they truly are a lot earlier, and I applaud that, and I continue to support that. So like I said, coming out is associated with several things. A lot of negativity is associated with it. There are a lot of fears. Fears of being exposed, fears of being embarrassed, fears of being rejected, fears of having homophobia, fears of having a lack of support. Then there's this one big, never-ending lagging problem is questions. When will our questions be answered? Will our questions ever be answered? And that's one of the hardest things. So I'm gonna start with the fears, and we'll talk about each one of those fears that I mentioned, and we'll start with the fear of being exposed. Coming out is something intimate. Coming out to yourself is not as intimate as coming out to the world, but once you realize who you are as an individual, you do get that sigh of relief. Coming out to family and friends, you are exposing something very personal about yourself to one, and that is associated and has a stigma that's attached to it, that you're opening up and you are exposing yourself, and it definitely makes it a challenge. There is that fear of being embarrassed as well, and I can't say that it doesn't happen. There are times where you're going to be embarrassed because you came out or because you are out. And you're probably going to deal with that for a while, but once you learn how to deal with yourself, and once you learn to love yourself, that embarrassment goes away very quickly. There is homophobia, and I am guilty of that myself. And I'll talk more about my homophobia in my story a little later. But, we unfortunately live in a society where we're not as progressive and as forward as we should be. We have a lot of hate in our country. We have a belief system where unless you fit in with the way I believe or the way I think, that you're irrelevant, or you're unnatural, or you're not worthy of time, and that's not the case. And I don't know how to help anybody with that. That's something that those people have to overcome themselves, because we need to realize that we are a world of a diverse group. We're no two individuals are alike, and until people realize that, we're always going to have hate. Support. Let me tell you now that even though you fear that you have no support, you have support. There are a plethora of support groups out there. You just have to be willing to find them, and they are going to accept you with open arms. And so that is something very important to let you know now, is there is support out there. I'm here for you if you need me. There are other like-minded individuals who have already been through the same process as you, who are more than willing to help you as an individual come out, accept who you are as an individual, and likewise. So once you have overcame those fears and you are now ready to make the next step of coming out, and that is actually coming out, we also have this tendency to ask, well, who do I come out to? How do I come out to? When do I come out? And nobody can tell you that other than yourself. What I would recommend is coming out to a single person who you consider a very close friend, who is not going to turn your back on you. And I don't mean a friend. I mean anybody. It could be your mom, it could be your dad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, cousin, teacher, a best friend. It doesn't matter. Somebody who you feel comfortable with, who you can tell them first. You're going to be surprised probably what they say. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. But that's who you start with. And once you have that person in your corner, then you can tackle the world. How you come out, it's up to you as well. You can come out in a big parade. You can come out in a note. You can come out in a party. Who knows? However, it's you. Up to you. Whenever you are ready to come out and the way you want to come out, that is the most important. If you want to make this a big spectacular show, go for it. If you want to just keep this quiet and hush and, at the dinner table, I'm gay, and then move on to the next conversation, that's up to you as well. When? Now, again, something that's personal. We're talking about a very intimate moment. When you come out, that's up to you. We do have a National Coming Out Day, and in 2017, that's going to be October 11th, where many people around the world are going to come out. And if that's the day you want to come out, then by all means, you have from today to that day to prepare how you are going to come out as an individual. We talk about that fear of rejection, and that fear of rejection is definitely true. It holds true in many ways. We have a fear of being rejected from our family. We have a fear of being rejected from our friends. We have a fear of being rejected from our religious groups, our social groups. And unfortunately, those rejections are real, and it does happen. But I want to tell you right now that it does get better. And although, you may lose a friend or two, or a family member might stop talking to you, it does get better. And if those people are willing to outcast you of their life, then that's on them. We as an individual, our personal psyche has this drive and this need to be accepted by individuals. And nobody can ever overcome that. That is a need that we have. We have a need of being wanted. We have a need of feeling wanted. And nothing hurts more than losing that. And I have a little quote that I want to share with you. And in psychology, we talk about you never know that you have love for someone until that love is gone. You never know that you truly love someone until you want their happiness, and whether that happiness be with them in your life or not. And that's what I say to these people. These people who are willing to outcast you because you came out as an individual, as who you are. It hurts you. It does. It hurts deep down, and only you are able to mend those wounds. But if they're willing to outcast you from their life, then good riddance, because they were never meant for you in the first place. That is something that I believe very true, and I do believe that you're going to grow as an individual with those people out of your life. It still does not ease the pain by any means, but it does get better. And what I will tell you as well is, even though those people outcasted you, most of the time, eventually they come around. And that's up to you if you want to accept them back into your life as well. So you have the power to come out. You have the power to empower yourself. And then you also have the power to accept people into your life who banished you for no reason. You are not alone in this process. I do want to make sure that you know that. You are not alone. There are millions of people every day struggling with the same things that you are focusing and struggling with today. And I have read in many reports and in news articles that individuals who are struggling with identity crises, such as being gay and coming out, tend to turn to suicide. And I want to be here with you today, and I want to talk with you about suicide, and suicide is not the answer. I'll share with you again a little bit about my story, but I'm a survivor, and I want to share with you again my famous quote: "It does get better." You are not alone in this process. Like I said, there are millions of people out there every day who are going to be going through this same process. So you do have a support system. You do have a support group. And I would say that every city that's large enough has some type of support system. Here in my hometown, which is not a very progressive community at all, we're very closed-minded here, we have a support group here. And I'll give them a shout out real quick. It's called the TSA, or the Tri-State Alliance, and they deal with youth here, and they go out bowling and skating and laser tag, and they have movie nights, and they empower the youth to be who they are, and I support that wholeheartedly. That is a key of acceptance, is feeling wanted. Like I already mentioned, we have that psyche need to feel that acceptance. So again, we have that support system out there, but we also have counseling services out there as an individual. They are there. Myself, I'm working towards my counseling degree. I will soon be a counselor who, I will identify as an LGBTQ competent counselor. I will be there for anyone who is struggling with a plethora of problems. And I start today with you as you're watching this. And if you have any problems, or you have any needs, or just need to talk to someone, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm here for you. So we have, like I said, counseling, and we have resources. There's another very large one, and I want to give them a shout out as well, the Trevor Project. You can go check them out at thetrevorproject.org. They are geared towards the youth as well, but they have an abundant amount of resources out there, coming out, mental health issues, social issues, any type of problem that you can think of. The Trevor Project definitely has resources out there to help you. So it's all about you and reaching out. I want you to know that you are not alone, and I will repeat this over and over and over. You are not alone, and it will get better. And so let's start off by doing this. You repeat after me. It gets better. Do not sit here and watch this video and think that you're the only one out there and that you're the only one having to deal with this, and that the only way out is just bottling it up, or potentially suicide, or just not accepting it who you are. And so for the next few minutes, I want to talk about my story and how I came out, and we'll go from there. My story is not as pleasant. It's definitely not the way I wanted it. It wasn't how I imagined. Growing up here in this town, like I said, and not a very forward community where homophobia definitely is real, I partook in that homophobia. I remember in middle school and high school, I used to call people faggots and queers and gay and homos, and I used to do that, although I knew I was as well. And like I mentioned, the 6-year-old who came out, and I'm astonished. I remember having a conversation, in the 90s. I'm going to date myself here a little bit. When the original Power Rangers were out, they introduced the White Ranger, Tommy. Let me tell you, Tommy. When I was a little young lad, Tommy definitely had sparked my interest. That's for sure. And I remember sitting on top of the washer with my mom while she was doing laundry, and we were just talking about the school day and crushes that I had had and girls that I had liked or whatnot. And I remember telling her distinctively, and it's amazing how certain little details about that will always reminisce inside your memory. I remember telling her, yeah, I had a crush. His name was Tommy, the White Ranger. And my mom kind of shot me some evil eyes, and she was like, he's a boy. You can't have a crush on a boy. And I'm like, but yeah, I like his hair. He looks good. He's got a nice body. But I did not identify as gay at that time. But I knew at that moment what I liked. So once I was in high school, I did experiment with some like-minded individuals, and I realized that's who I was and who I wanted, and still made fun of those individuals behind their back or even to their face. And I respect those individuals who never outed me in high school, and I'm really thankful for that. But once I graduated high school, I decided that it was the best option for me to move over to another city just a couple miles away that was a little bit bigger than where I was, and I was going to be able to express myself as an individual, live the life that I wanted to live, and go from there. Well, boy, let me tell you, news travels fast. And although I was living the gay lifestyle over in another city, in another state, it got back to my mom. And my mom had asked me about it, and I told her that I identified as a bisexual male at that time. That was about as most comfortable as I was willing to step out. And she was like, okay, well, that's fine. I'm not going to tell anybody. Just make sure that you're careful and whatnot. So at that moment, I kind of knew I had my support system. I think definitely a mother's intuition always knows. So I had her. My parents ended up getting a divorce, and during their divorce, they did not fight fair. They fought very dirty, and they brought everyone down with them as well. And during that process, I was outed to my family, essentially, and definitely wasn't the manner that I wanted. But I did, and that kind of triggered me into a very depressive state, where I was at that moment on the run to find happiness. And I left the city that I was in, returned back to Kentucky, where I attended University of Kentucky for 2 semesters, and then kind of trickled away to find myself all the way on the East Coast, which I'm glad that I did. And, throughout the next series of videos, you'll learn more about why I was happy where I ended up and where my life went. But that's not the topic of today's video. However, when I found myself on the East Coast, I was finally coming to terms with who I was. I was about 23, 24 when I finally realized, wow, okay, Justin, you are gay. You need to accept it and stop lying to yourself, stop lying to everyone else, and embark on that. Be happy. Up until here recently, I still struggled with the idea, and I just wasn't happy. I mean, I could not love myself. And now that I have finally came to terms with who I am, unfortunately it took me several years to do it. I can actually honestly report to you that I am a happy individual, and I look forward to where my life is going. But I did find myself at one point, at 24 years old, with a gun in my hand. And I thought that the easiest answer was just to go ahead and take my life. And that's not the answer. And I want to sit here with you for a moment, and I want to tell you that if you are feeling like you need to resort to that, stop right now. That's not the answer. The answer is not to harm yourself. That is an easy, and I'm going to put this very bluntly, that is a cop-out. That is not the right answer. You are better than that as an individual, and I encourage you to seek help. Like I said, I've already mentioned several resource groups out there. Reach out to me if you're the only person. If I'm the only person that you can think of, reach out to me. That is not the answer. Report to the emergency department. Report to a counselor. Do something. Taking your life is not the answer. It does get better. So, thankfully I am here today, and so I did not take my life, and I'm happy. I really am happy. So, a couple years later, I don't want to jump the gun here, but a couple of years later, my partner at that time helped me through my depression of coming out as who I was and where I was in my life. And he had a very wise suggestion, and I'm glad that I heeded his advice. And he told me one day, he's like, I think you need to reach out to your mom and dad. I think you need to mend those problems so you can get better. And I'm so thankful that he did that, because I sent out these long Facebook messages because I didn't know else how to do it. Both of my parents divorced. They moved on. They made their lives without me. They both of them remarried. I was not invited to the weddings. I had no idea my parents were, happy ever after, whatnot. So that hurt. That hurt as an individual. Again, going back to that fear of rejection and, wanting to be accepted. So I heeded his advice, and I reached out, and I sent these long emails to my parents, basically blaming them for what had happened, for outing me. I wasn't happy with that. And I'm happy to report to you today that each day progresses, and my relationship with my parents continues to get better. It's nothing like it was. My mom and I are very relatively close in age. And so my mom used to be my best friend. Not too long ago, she was experiencing the same things I was. And so I was always very comfortable with her. I used to tell her everything. And now it's getting better. I am telling my mom more, and, opening up more with my mom and going from there. And I'm grateful for that. So again, living proof, it does get better. So again, my coming out story was nothing like I wanted. It wasn't planned. It was forced. And if you are a parent watching this video, I do want to let you know that do not force your child into coming out. Let them come out on their own terms. Forcing them does do some psychological damage. This has to be something that they are comfortable with themselves before they can be comfortable with telling anyone else. And throughout the next series of videos, you guys will learn why I say that it's important to love yourself before you can love anyone else. And so, again, another quote, like I said, you have to love yourself. Loving yourself allows you to love others unconditionally. And so what I'm going to do is that kind of wraps up this video. I want to introduce the next video topic, which is going to be depression, and how depression and coming out are very similar to one another. They're definitely not a choice. You don't choose to be gay, and you don't choose to have depression. They are not phases. You are gay and you are bi, you are lesbian, you are transgendered. It's not a choice. It's not a lifestyle that we choose. It's there and it's real, and we have to embrace it. And depression is the same way. I don't think anybody wants to choose depression. It is an illness, and we have to battle that illness. It is not specific. It does not just happen at certain points in your life. It does not happen only at certain events. It can be triggered hardcore at certain things, but depression is definitely something that is lifelong. It can get better. It can be subdued, but it's there, and it's not specific. And so is coming out, and so is being gay. You're just not gay on Tuesdays of every week. You're gay every day. And that's reality. The next two are pretty funny, but they are true. They are not contagious. But I do want to tread the water very lightly here on one side. Although depression is not contagious, you're not going to cause another person to be depressed. The actions that you do and the vibe that you put off can trigger someone else's depression. So that's very important to be aware of the vibe that you put off. You're definitely not going to go around sneezing gay on anyone. I don't think I've ever heard in literature where, I coughed homosexuality on my neighbor and they caught homosexuality. So that's not going to happen. We can put that aside. The next one is not as enlightening as the other one, but it is who we are. We have to embrace that. We do not have to let depression define who we are, but we need to know that depression is part of us. You choose to let the depression overcome you, or you can overcome the depression. And we'll talk more about that in the next video, but you definitely don't choose to be gay, and that is who you are, and be proud. I struggled with that for a lot up until here recently of who I am, and it led into several problems that I have, and we'll talk about that over the series of these videos. But depression is real, and so is being gay and lesbian, bi, transgender. They are real, and again, my favorite quote, my favorite campaign, it does get better. So in closing of today's video, like I said, I want to be here for you. I'm not here for popularity. I'm not here for pity. I am here for you as an individual if you're watching this. And my overall goal is to help enlighten someone's life, even if it's just a little. That is my purpose in life, I believe. So again, tomorrow's video or the next video will be talking about depression. We'll be embarking on 2017 here very soon, and I look forward to 2017 being a great year. And so this will be the last time that you probably will see this surrounding as I am embarking on my next journey in life and moving to Chicago here within the next couple of days. And so we'll go from there. But until then, thank you for watching. Please comment, like, share this video if you found it at all intriguing. And I also do want to make sure or make a note that if you are watching this video and you have already came out, please in the comment section tell us your story. I do believe that hearing from others enriches the individual who is currently struggling. And so tell your story. Let these people who are researching and Googling and YouTubing coming out stories for them, let them know that it is okay and it does get better. So that does conclude the video for today. I hope you have a phenomenal day, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon. Thanks. Bye.